There was a recession due anyway. It's going to be accelerated by the uncertainty that Trump has injected into the system. If Simon Harris had guts and testicles, he would have chosen housing. When are we going to fire some people in the public service?
You don't see Sinn Féin as change. I don't believe they see that as change.
I think something that is fresh and that is real Republican. Not firing shots over graves, but empowering the people.
So hi everyone, you're very welcome to my next podcast. Elaine Mullally is my name, and I'm delighted today to be joined with Cormac Lucey. Thank you very much, Cormac, for coming on to have a chat with me. What's happened the last few weeks has been extremely something we've never witnessed before in Ireland, but I have never in my lifetime. So from an economist perspective, how would you sum up what's happened in the last 2 weeks in Ireland with the tariffs on, tariffs off? Where are we? Where are we now, would you say?
I'd go a step further back. So I worked for several years as a political advisor to Michael McDowell when he was Justice Minister. And I think in Donald Trump, we have an exceptional American president who is epoch changing. So, you had people like George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr., Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and they were all continuity candidates of one sort or another. But Donald Trump is he's a completely different sort of president to those guys. He won the most extraordinary victory last November. If you'd said 3 years ago, Donald Trump is going to be re-elected, people would have looked at you and wondered, were you on something? So what he's been doing on tariffs in the last fortnight is just part of this more thought out political plan for him. I think it's a crazy plan myself. I would have voted for Trump. I think there are very few people who speak publicly in Ireland who would admit to voting for Trump. Now, I would have had very clear reservations about him, but I think Kamala Harris would have been substantially worse.
Yeah.
And the Democrats would have been substantially worse. So I would have reluctantly voted for, but clearly voted for Trump. This tariff war we're now in, he spent a fortune in 1987 to put one-page ads into the New York Times and other top American newspapers arguing for tariffs. So this isn't some whim that he has adopted 3 months ago or 6 months ago. He has believed this for 40 years, that tariffs are the way to go and that trade imbalances shouldn't exist. If Ireland sells whiskey to England, and if England sells beer to France, and if France sells wine to Ireland, each country, we've got a trade imbalance with England. We're just exporting to them. We've got a trade imbalance with France. We're just importing from them. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with those arrangements. Trade arrangements, by their very nature, are entirely voluntary. So what's the problem? The problem in America is they have continuous deficits, meaning that they're importing a lot more than they're exporting. And that's really down, in my opinion, to two things. One is they're a nation that doesn't save very much. So they're spending a much higher proportion of their incomes than, say, the Germans or the Swiss or the Irish. And this hasn't really featured in the debate at all. The dollar is the world's reserve currency. So if the Indian central bank is doing some dealings with the Pakistani central bank, the common currency they can do those trades in is the dollar. It is the liquid currency that lubricates global finance. That gives the Americans a terrific advantage. They can turn on a printing press, print off dollars, sell them to the Central Bank of Pakistan for the Pakistani currency that they can then use and buy stuff with. They can sell freshly printed dollars to the Central Bank of India, buy stuff with what the Indians give them, knowing that unless we reach a doomsday situation, the dollars that they're selling are essentially not going to be used. They're going to be kept under a metaphorical mattress for use by other central banks on a rainy day. So I think Trump's understanding of trade deficits is fundamental.
Why is he doing it? Why? It can't be just that he thinks it's
I
gonna.
think he's been acting in the last 2 months as if he got re-elected with 80% of the vote. And all of his acolytes around him, they're all feeding this. Nobody's saying, hang on a minute, you're
The
off
emperor's
beat
no
there.
clothes.
Correct. You won't be invited back
Yeah.
if you tell him that. We could see this in, like, I read long before he became a vice presidential possibility, I read J.D. Vance's book, Hillbilly Elegy, which is a very good book, well worth reading. He's clearly highly intelligent, highly capable individual. But to see him just in complete suck-up mode, telling Denmark, essentially, oh, you have to hand over Greenland to America because this is what President Trump wants. It's just pathetic. And you've a whole lot of people around Trump who are giving him varying versions of that message. What Donald says happens. What the president wants happens. Whether it's right or whether it's wrong.
I reckon the scale of the damage will be.
I think it's very hard to know. In Ireland, the scale of the damage will be quite modest, assuming nothing significant happens in pharma. So over half of our goods exports to the United States are of pharmaceuticals. So when Trump announced these tariffs and carved out pharmaceuticals from the tariffs, there'd have been massive sighs of relief in government buildings over that. Now, the question is that carve out permanent, or are Trump's gurus just working out some even more exquisite form of torture for the Irish pharma sector that he's going to unveil in 2 or 3 weeks? Is twofold. Firstly, that he's going to come up with something on pharma that's going to make things considerably worse for Ireland. And secondly, this thing with China, that's going to be an economic equivalent of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
That's exactly my belief, is that there's a recession coming, and it's a case of everything's going to be very easy blamed, because people always look for somebody to blame in a recession. It's never that our government weren't looking after our eggs in our basket, that there were. So, yeah.
Well, if you're an adolescent schoolboy, one of the first things you learn, nobody teaches you, but one of the first things you learn is, if there's some mess in the school or in the classroom, make yourself scarce. When teacher finds out about it, don't be the one standing next to it.
Yeah.
Trump, by contrast, has made disruptive economic actions the hallmark of his presidency. And if a recession is called next month, it's going to be the Trump recession. It's going to be the Trump bear market. And that's going to be toxic for Republican congressional candidates in October, 12 months.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's so back to the point, say leaving President Trump out of the equation, what way do you see the whole economy going at the moment, or have you seen a trend emerging before all of this? Like you say, whoever's left holding the ball is the one who's going to get the blame. But like prior to that, where were we going?
Prior to Trump,
yeah,
in my opinion, there was a recession coming into the US sometime this year anyway.